Hello, welcome to World Storytelling Cafe. Uh, my name is Riikka Palonen. I am from Finland. And before we start, let's do one thing. Let's put the woolen socks on. You know, I normally go barefoot when I'm telling stories, but this morning, even though that it's April, it's still pretty cold in Finland, and we had the frosty night. So you see, it's better to have the socks on because we don't want to catch cold. No, do we? Right? And make sure that you are also comfortable and warm. And so we can start our little journey in the woodlands of Finland. Uh, I was a little bit of considering whether I should tell these stories in the woods, but as said, it was frosty night and it was so chilly there in the morning that I decided that let's stay indoors. I have a roaring fire there in the fireplace, and this is my log house. It's very old. Nobody knows exactly how old, but it's at least 250 years old. So I have a good company of all sorts of old spirits here. Um, they are kind ones, which is really good. Right, so I will tell you one story that is my own story, so something that really happened to me, and then I will sing you a song using my own language, Finnish, so you can hear how it sounds. And the last one will be a folk story, so an old traditional Finnish story. And yes, I used to work with Highland cattle, those lovely, mighty Scottish bovines having huge horns and a lovely dozen, And I worked with them for 25 years. I was importing cattle breeding stock, but I also had my own herd, approximately 15 to 20 cows. And they lived in a lovely meadow surrounded by the woodlands, just a couple of kilometers from my house. And all those 25 years, the first thing in the morning, very early in the morning, was for me to go and check on my cows. And this story is about one particular cow, or actually, she wasn't a cow in the beginning of this story. She was still a heifer, so a young lassie. But at the end of this story, she was already a cow, so it was calving time. And Shawnee was in calf, so going to have her first baby. And as one of my duties as a cattle breeder was to make notes on the love life of the breeding bulls. So I knew roughly when she was due to calf. And that morning, when all this started, I realized right away that this is going to be the day for Shawnee. Because they cows when they kind of feel that the time is getting close, they get this sort of funny, far away look, sort of absent look upon them. And I decided that I'll come back every second hour that day just to see how it goes. Keen eye keeps the cattle. And it all started as it's supposed to go. So she went away from the herd, as they do. The calving cow always goes in solitude, and the other cows are pretending that they didn't notice anything. So it's this sort of agreement between them. But in the afternoon, when I was once again coming to see how the procedure was getting on, I noticed already from far distance that now there's something wrong. There is something really wrong. Because what I could see was that the whole herd of cows were hustling and bustling and running around and nosing and pushing each other in the middle of the meadow. Because at that time in the afternoon, they were normally peacefully just lying and chewing somewhere in the woodlands. But now there was a whole riot going on. And they seemed to be particularly interested in one place on the meadow. It was an old ditch. There was no water in it. It was dry, but it was a ditch, all right. It was going across the whole area, and it seemed that there was something really interesting down there in the ditch. So I entered the pasture area and started to walk towards the ditch to check what was it. And at the same time, I was trying to locate where is Shawnee. And then I saw her. She was completely on the other side of the pasture, standing by the electric fence and facing the woods. She was not at all interested of the riot that was going on the meadow. Really strange. But I went to see what was in the ditch, and lo and behold, there was a wet bundle of something. Well, I knew what it was. It was a newborn calf. It was just dropped there into the ditch. I quickly jumped in to check that if it was alive, and it was, yes, it was alive. It was just in such a difficult position that it couldn't possibly move or try to get up or anything. It was just lying there. So it was clearly just dropped into the ditch. It was all covered with slime and all sort of things after birth. So obviously the mother had not even tried to lick her dry. Well, I quickly checked that she could breathe to clear the nose and throat, and I felt all the bones. Yeah, there's nothing broken, nothing wrong. And then I just tried to lift her up to the pasture, which was a wee bit difficult because, yeah, she was about 35 kilos and completely wet, slimy, a sack of bones. And also, I was assisted with 15 heavy cows, horned, and everybody willing to sniff the calf and just to be part of the excitement. Yeah, but I managed to lift the calf onto the pasture, got my breath back, and lifted the calf up again and started carrying it towards Shawnee. Because it was her calf. I was completely sure about that. And while I was dragging that calf across the meadow towards Shawnee, I already started yelling her name, and I was also yelling something else. I was like shouting to her that, "You stupid little cow, what are you doing over there? Because you have some business here. You have a duty. You have a calf to lick." And as all my animals knew their names, so it was like Shawnee also was like awakened from an enchantment, and she turned around and looked at the calf and came carefully there and started sniffing the calf. And I was so relieved when I saw that she understood that it was her calf, all right. And she started licking and taking care of the calf. And she started sounding these lovely, lovely bonding sounds that the cows are doing when they are licking their newborn calf. They do like, mmm, mmm, mmm. Right. Good. All the other cows also realized that, okay, all clear. And they went back to their chewing business. And I sat down on the edge of the ditch, partly because I was a bit exhausted of carrying that wet calf around, and because I wanted to observe that Shawnee really was doing a good thing and that the calf was all right, and because I needed to think. I was really wondering that what was it in the forest that was so interesting that it had made Shawnee to just abandon her calf. Could it be possible that they could be like twin calves and the other one would be like be born there by the fence and somehow like rolled under the fence or something? Should I go there and check? But before I had time to do anything, out from the forest came a cry that made my heart jump up to my throat, a cry that made Shawnee the cow to turn around from her calf facing the forest again, a cry that I bet each and every female mammal would recognize. It was a newborn baby crying for its mother. Now I understood a little bit of what had happened. So, obviously, when Shawnee had been giving birth, when she was pushing, and we remember that she was a first timer, so she probably didn't exactly know where and how the calves are like coming out into this world. And I was sure that the very same moment when she gave the final strong push and the calf was born, that cry was heard from the forest. And of course, it was a cry for mother. Somebody was yelling, "Mama!" So Shawnee, dear Shawnee, she thought that her calf was over there in the forest. So that's why she didn't pay any attention to the thing that just was dropped into the bottom of the ditch. She ran straight towards the cry to find the baby that was in a mystical way on the other side of the fence. Right. But what was that baby? Because I was really sure that it was not a calf. It was not bovine. It was not out of any of my cows. It was some other animal, but what was it? So I went to stand by the fence at the same spot where Shawnee had been standing, and I was waiting. I was waiting. If I could hear the cry again, then I could kind of get the direction and go and look for it. But there was no more cry. Instead, something was approaching the pasture. in a tall grass, something was moving between the willow bushes. Down into the bottom of the ditch it meant, and using the ditch as a gateway, it crawled under the electric fence into my pasture area, just 2 meters away from me. And of course, I went to see what it was. And you know what it was? I was about this size. Beautiful red, coppery color, having tiny coin like white spots, and the most beautiful, velvety black eyes you could imagine. Bambi! It was a little deer baby, a fawn, and it was strong-mindedly going towards my cow Shawnee. Well, at that point I had to jump again into the ditch just to stop the fawn, because you know Highland cows, they can be really, really protective when they have their babies. So I didn't want Shawnee to toss the little fawn away with her huge horns. So I just stood there to stop her, and she did stop, and she turned around and climbed up from the ditch, crawled down, and had to sleep. Right, okay. Now I had a newborn calf over there and a newborn wild animal over there on my pasture. At that point, I took my phone and I phoned the gamekeeper because I wanted to ask if anyone had reported a carcass of a deer on this area, because we had the wolf pack. So to know that if the fawn was orphaned. But the gamekeeper said that no, nobody has reported anything about the wolves, so probably they are not in this area at the moment at all. And then he said that, yeah, right, it's possible that because it was very dry, the ditch was dry and there was not much water around, that maybe the deer mother has just went to get some food and some drink and is a bit further away. So what I should do is to get the fawn out from the pasture area if the deer mother will come back in the evening to get her baby. And as I was wearing gloves, so it's okay to touch wild babies when you are wearing gloves, I managed to lift it and take it out from the pasture area. Okay. So far, so good. Shawnee was doing a good job with the calf. The fawn was there. It laid down again. Everything seemed peaceful, and I wanted coffee. I went back home to have a cup of coffee, and then I was kind of pondering about what really had happened there on the pasture. So Shawnee, the cow, had thought that the fawn was her baby. The fawn had thought Shawnee was her mother, probably because of the smells of the afterbirth and probably because of the lovely sound that Shawnee was making, this So the little fawn that thought that, oh, mother is over there, I'll go and meet my mother. And when I heard the cry, even I had recognized that that was a newborn baby, and I had a strong feeling that I should go and help the little one. So in a way, deer, cow, human, we all understood each other without spoken language. We were all like like tiny images of the great mother, Mother Earth. And that felt in a way really nice. It felt like I'm belonging to this universal motherhood. Right. Finished my coffee, went back to the pasture area. I wanted to see that the calf was suckling so that it got the first milk, which is essential. And when I arrived there, what a happy sight it was. Shawnee was standing there proudly presenting the calf, who was just there, suckling the first dose of milk, having the wee tail proudly up like a flag of victory. Oh, it looked so cute. And I was just standing there, admiring them, feeling happy for Shawnee and the calf. And after a while, in the corner of my eye, I got a glimpse of a light brown shadow between the trees on the other side of the meadow. The dear mother had returned for her baby. End of that story. And yeah, if we have babies, I had one a long time ago. She's grown up now and doesn't live at home anymore. But when she was wee, she, of course, wanted to hear a lullaby every now and then. And she had one favorite lullaby. It's Squirrel's lullaby. And the lyrics are telling about a little squirrel that is sleeping high, high up in a fir tree, watching down how the world is having all sort of sorrows and troubles and fights down there. But up in the arms of the fir tree, it's peaceful and safe, and the lovely little nest is all covered with soft green moss, and the little squirrel is sleeping there. And so this is the song of the little squirrel. Makeasti oravainen makaa sammalvuotelonsa. Sinnepä ei hallin hammas, eikä metsämiehen ansa. Ehtineet milloinkaan. Ei milloinkaan. Kammiostaan korkeasta katselee hän maailman piiriin. Taistelaa allans monta havuhoksan rauhan viiri. Päällänsä liepoittaa. Mikä elo onnellinen keinuvassa kehtolinnas. Siellä torkkuu oravainen harmaan kuusen äitin rinnas. Metsolan torkkuu heilu häntä, akkuun alla pienoisella. Linnut laulain taivaan alla, saattaa hänet iltasella. Unien kultaan. Unien kultalan. Yeah, so that was about animal babies. What about the human babies then? You know, in the old days, they used to live a good wife in my village, a farmer's wife, uh, but she has had the special ability of delivering babies. At that time, there were no nurses, no midwives, no doctors on the countryside. So, having this sort of a very, very skilled woman in the village was a good thing indeed. And she was known far and wide, and very often people came to her to ask for help. When all this started, it was July. July is the hottest month in Finland, and it's the month when the farmers normally are making hay. And in old days, haymaking was a hard job to do because they were cutting the hay with the scythe and then using pitchfork they were lifting hay up to stacks to dry, and a long day in heavy sunshine. It was a hard job. They used to do that when I was a child, so been there, done that. And in the evening after such a working day, all your muscles are aching, but that's not the worst thing. The worst thing is the itch. You've been sweating the whole day, and each time you are lifting hay with your pitchfork, you get dust and seeds and bits and pieces of the hay, and it just sticks into your skin as it being wet because of the sweat. And in the evening, it's it's itching like you have been jumping into the bush of nettles. And that was the case with our dear good wife as well. She thought that can't sleep, I can't possibly sleep if I don't get washed first. So even though that it was late, she decided to warm up the sauna, the sweat lodge, just to get some warm water so that she could properly wash herself. And that's what she did. And when the sauna was just about to be ready and nicely warm, she went to get some twigs of birch tree, because that's what we Finns do. Uh, the leaves of the birds when taken into the sauna, they give a lovely scent, absolutely beautiful scent, and that's what she wanted to have. And when she came back for her sauna, carrying those birch twigs, ready to have her bath, what did she see? A neighboring man standing in front of her sauna, twisting his cap in his hands like, oh, dear neighbor, I think my wife is in labor. Should you come and check on her? Oh no, thought the good wife, not tonight. was so tired. She wanted to have her bath. She wanted to have her sleep. She knew she had to wake up very early in the morning to milk the cows and after that go back to the hayfield for another very, very hard working day. Ah, she asked the neighbor, how many children do you have? Isn't isn't this like going to be the number 6, if I recall right? And the neighbor said that, yes, yes, that'll be it, number 6. I. Here now, said the good wife. Your wife knows already what to do, and it'll just go naturally. You don't need me there. Just go home and take care of your wife. Do as she's telling you, and it'll be just fine. So she went to have her bath, and after that, she had a good sleep. But in the morning, early in the morning, she got a word from the village that the birth didn't go well. The child was having a wrong position, and the neighbor, he lost both the child and his wife. That hurt. Poor good wife, she didn't know what to do. Of course, she blamed herself. She blamed herself day after day, week after week. She couldn't think about anything else than just she was regretting. Why didn't I go there? Why didn't I go? Maybe I could have helped. Maybe I couldn't, but at least I could have tried. And she was really getting ill of having so much sorrow on her. And finally one day she sat down and she just gathered all the strength she had left, and she prayed and she made a promise for herself. She said that, okay, God, if you have given me these 2 hands capable of delivering babies, so that's what I'm supposed to do. That is my duty, and even more so, that is my honor. And from now on, whenever, whoever, wherever is asking for help, I will immediately go and do all that I can. Immediately and always. And after saying this, she felt a bit better. And then time passed, and time has this marvelous ability of kind of cutting the edges from sorrow, and that is a good thing. So years passed, and the dear good wife, she had almost forgotten about that sad July. And it was then August, and August is a lovely month in Finland because in August it's still warm, it's mild, but we get the night back. We have a few hours of darkness already. So our dear good wife had gone to sleep as normally, But for some odd reason, she woke up in the middle of the night. And it is with us elderly ladies that if we wake up in the middle of the night, we quite often need we, and so did she. Those days, people were not wearing pajamas or nightgowns or anything fancy like that. She was just wearing a shirt, so she had taken off her skirts and had the shirt, which was long enough to cover her bum. So she thought that, I don't bother dressing up. I just quickly go out and have my wee and come back. And that's what she did. But when she was about to go in again, what did she see? 3 men standing on her yard, on her doorstep. And the men were strange, not only strange like she didn't know who they were, but they they looked very strange. They were small. 2 of them were carrying some sort of torches, and the one was looking like a bit wealthier, was having a bit weird clothes, but they seemed to be velvet and having nice trims and big shiny buttons. The rich man started to talk in a very polite way. He was asking, "Dear lady, are you perhaps the midwife in this village?" And the good wife said that, yeah, yes, I am. "Dear lady," said the wealthy man, "I beg you, my wife is in labor, and I'm afraid there will be some problems. Could you please follow me and help her?" At that point, I must say, good wife was afraid. It was middle of the night. She was alone. She couldn't enter her house because the men were standing on a doorstep. The men were so strange, and she was just wearing her shirt. But then she remembered. She remembered that July, and she remembered what she had promised, and she said, "Let's go right away." And so they did. The torchbearers walked first, and the rich man and the good wife followed. And the rich man was talking. He said, "Where we go, don't you be afraid. I will take you in, another one will take you out. But just remember, do your job, but don't eat, don't drink, don't ask for any sort of payment." And while talking like this, they had walked into the forests, and there was a huge old boulder. Goodwife had seen that boulder several times before, but never before had she seen that on the side of the boulder there was a door, and the door was open. And in went the men with the torches, and in went Goodwife, followed by the rich man, and behind them the door closed. And at that point, the good wife understood. She had entered the halls of the underground fairies. such halls. There were hundreds of candles everywhere. There were chandeliers, and there were dozens of these tiny people running around, and everybody was dressed nicely, wearing velvet and silk and jewelries. Well, the good wife was taken into a chamber where the poor lady was in labor, and indeed help was needed. It was a difficult childbirth. But as she knew her trade so well, she was able to help, and she felt so enormously happy when she was giving the newborn, healthy, tiny fairy boy to his proud mother. In comes a servant. He has a tankard of ale with him, and he says, "Dear lady, you have done a good work. You must be thirsty. Do have a little bit ale." Ooh. The ale had a lovely smell. It had a lovely color. It had a lovely white foam on top of it. But the good wife remembered. Ah, no, thank you. I'm not thirsty. In comes another servant, is bringing a bowl of porridge, saying, "Oh, dear good wife, you made a marvelous job. You must be hungry. Have some porridge." The porridge was clearly cooked in whole creamy milk, and on top of it there was a huge lump of melting butter like a fountain of gold. But the good wife said, "No, thank you. No, I'm not hungry." In comes the third servant. He's saying, "Dear lady, you did a good job indeed. Now, could you please tell me, what do you want as a reward?" Now, our dear good wife, she was looking at all the velvet and silk and jewelry and everything the fairy ladies were carrying, and she was just having her old shirt. But she said, "No, that was nothing. That was an honor to help. So really, um, but you know, I'm pretty tired, and I would I would like to go home if that's okay. Just I don't know where the door is." "Hmm," said the third servant. "I'll show you the way." And off they went. And while walking towards the doors, the third servant took from a basket on the wall side a long, coarse linen thread, and he wrapped it 7 times round the good wife's neck. And just before he opened the doors, he took a handful of wooden chips and placed them on the shirt, the hem of the shirt of the good lady. And she was so puzzled of everything that had happened that she didn't even drop those wood chips from her shirt, not before she was sitting on the side of her own bed in her own house. Yeah, and she fell asleep. And in the morning when she woke up, she noticed that she was wearing a 7-fold golden necklace. And on the floor beside her bed, there was a big handful of silver coins. End of the story. Now, I hope you enjoyed this little bit of my Finnish stories, and I hope my English was good enough for you to understand. And maybe we'll see each other someday, somewhere. And bye bye now.
Did you enjoy that storyteller? Of course you did. And if you enjoyed it, like the minstrels of old, we're passing round the hat. And if you have some, whether it's paper or coin, our storytellers would appreciate what you put in. Every penny you put in goes directly to that storyteller through PayPal. All you have to do is go to worldstorytellingcafe.com, click on today's stories or click on that storyteller, and there'll be a hat below the story, and you can just drop a little in that hat. Well, thank you for listening, and if you can afford it, we'd appreciate it.